Hi everybody, this is your tutorial steps 1 and 2 for drawing eyes. Okay, so this week we're talking about drawing eyes, and your mission is to create a self-portrait using only your eyes. This is really important because they say that the eyes are the window to the soul, and the eyes of a person hold a lot of character. So learning how to capture that will be really important to drawing successful portraits. This video is about steps 1 and 2. Step 1 is choosing your photo, printing it out, and step 2 is determining your eye size and basically setting up your drawing. Step 1 is choosing your picture, printing it out, and making sure that it's exactly what you want before you get started. Okay, remember our computational thinking skills. Problem solving is going to happen a lot in this first step, because you have to figure out your photograph and which one you want to use and why. Okay, so the first step of computational thinking is decomposition, which means breaking a problem into smaller parts. I went through all of the pictures that I had, I tried to take a couple, and I ended up settling on this one. I wanted something that was just my eyes, and if I cropped it, I could maybe include my hair or something, but it wasn't going to be too difficult for me. I wouldn't have to add too many different parts of my face. I also was considering the different aspects of our acronym bow tie, which is, what we use for choosing a subject. I wanted it to be beautiful or interesting. I thought this was pretty interesting. I wanted it to be on level, so not too difficult. That's why I chose a photograph where I'm looking straight at the camera. I then wanted to add a little bit of interest, so make something a little bit challenging, which is why I chose the one with one eyebrow raised. I also want texture and shadow. I basically went through all the different steps and I came up with this one. I decided that I wanted something that was a little bit real, so I picked this photograph. I played with it a little bit in my photo editing app just to bump up the contrast, but I wanted it to look like me, hair a little bit messy. I didn't want it to look too polished. So that was the abstraction stage of problem solving, right? I'm trying to figure out what's important to me and what's not important to me. Okay, so the next step in computational thinking is algorithmic thinking, so determining a series of steps. I don't know all of those yet, but what I was going to start with was making it black and white so that I could see the shadows better, and then printing it out. And then I think I'm pretty good. I'm going to print it out 8 by 10, so a full size of printer paper. Okay, so here I am with my photo all printed out and ready to go, and I'm ready for step 2, which is setting up your drawing. Okay, so step 2 is all about setting up your drawing, creating measurements, kind of figuring out where things are going to be so that you make sure that you have proportion, which is one of your elements and principles of art. So, the first stage in this step is kind of figuring out the distance between your eyes, where they begin and end. It's really hard to just, and no pun intended, but eyeball that. So here's my photograph. I got another piece of paper. So here's my second piece of printer paper. So I don't remember whether I came up with this trick or I just heard it from somewhere. But basically what you're gonna do is take this second piece of paper and fold it flat, like this. Fold it in half, I guess. And then, so the one tutorial that I kind of based this off of said get a ruler, but I say, why get a ruler when you can just make marks yourself, right? So you can hold the paper right up to your eyes like this on the photograph, and you can go like this. Beginning of eye, end of eye. Beginning of eye, end of eye. Right? And then a lot of times I do this too. Beginning of iris, end of iris. Beginning of iris, end of iris. So something like that. If you really want to too, you could even do it the other direction. So fold the ends like this. You could be like So you could be like this, and you could say, and they're about, I'm probably just gonna measure the eyelid, not the eyelashes, how far they go. So like here to here. Same with this. Here. Let me see, here to here. So when I draw, I have these tick marks that I can base it off of. On the paper that I'm using, I can make these little marks and just start drawing. So then I just basically took my paper that I was going to use and I made little marks, just like I did on the paper, for where my eyes begin and end, the space in between, right? And where my pupil's gonna be and about how tall they are. And then the next step is making a circle. Okay, so my next step is to draw 2 circles. So kind of draw just circles around the lines that I have. This is, you know, your eyeball is an actual ball. So this is giving that anatomically correct sort of eye that you should be thinking about. This is what's behind your skin and your skull. A lot of artists use, you know, drawing a skull for the base of a face. So here's my circles. They're not perfect, but hey, it'll work. And that's step 2. Step 3 is deciding on an eye angle, like you know, if your eyes sort of turn inward or are straight across. I think mine are pretty straight across. If anything, I feel like they tilt slightly inward. So I think I'm just gonna leave it straight across. I'll show you what I mean in a second. So what I mean by straight across is you want to draw a line right down the middle. Of your eyes. I think mine are pretty straightforward. So if you had eyes that are slightly tilted, you would maybe want to draw the angle like this. But I feel like mine are pretty straight across. Pretty boring. Okay, the next thing that we have to do is determine your eye shape. So mine are very much like very half moons. If you look at this shape here, it's kind of very curvy and archy on the top, but wider on the ends. And then I have a very curvy bottom as well. So the next step after you determine your eye shape, and it might take you a couple times to get it right, but that's why we're using pencil and things we can erase. After I determine my eye shape is kind of just draw it. So I made those guidelines. So the corner of the eye is going to be here. I made it the guideline for the top of my eye, and then the end of my eye is going to be where I had the end of my eye. And then the bottom, I know in elementary school, or if you've ever tried to draw a realistic eye before, people said it looks like a football. So like this. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. It doesn't quite look like this either. There's going to be a curve to the bottom, but it's not going to be as dramatic as a football. So for me, mine is kind of like a flattened football. Let's do it again on the other side. Whoops. Okay. So that's going to be the top of my eyelid. Inner line. So matching this up to my picture, we're close, but we're not quite there. Looks like I need to make the line on this side just a little bit wider, and on this side it looks like I need to make the bottom line just a little bit more curvy. So I'll fix that really quick. The next step is shadow lining your eyebrows. So just sort of making an outline of your eyebrows. I made guidelines of where my eyebrows start, and I'm going to sort of just fill in like their outside shape. And I can fix these later, so I'm not really worried about it being super realistic, but my eyebrows kind of go up in an arch and then trail off into these little triangle at the end. They're about that thick. That's close enough for now. The next step is to draw the irises. So most people's irises take up 2/3 of the eye. My eyes are a little bit extra giant, I guess, so that takes up a little bit less. But take your photo, make sure you have your photo while you're looking at it, and try one eye at a time. Try to figure out where your iris hits. So mine's kind of like here. And then goes all the way around. Oops. Kind of like that. And sometimes once you put your iris in your eye like that, it's close enough for now, you might realize that you need to make some adjustments to your eye shape. So for me, I'm seeing this, and in relationship to my the curve of my eye, this needs to be a little bit curvier. So that's one eye, the outline of the iris on one eye. Now I'm looking at the other one. Oops. Okay. So I'm just sort of eyeballing it, haha, and I think I'm pretty close. Maybe not. So this is where positive and negative space is important. So I have all this white space, and I have to kind of think about where my iris sits in relationship to all this white space. I'm actually more looking at the white space than I am looking at the blue iris. So it looks like I have some white space here, kind of goes to there, and then it looks like I have some white space all the way up to the lash line, and then I start to have some more white space over here, and that's where it kind of curves. So if you don't place your iris. Okay, so I just went in and erased all of my guidelines and kept what I had. And now I'm ready to get started on shading and drawing and coloring things in.